I'm Dump Truck DS and welcome back to Mapping for Quake. So this episode is 5 must-use WAD files, basically texture files. So if you don't know what a WAD file is, this is not the right video to watch. I have a series on textures. I think it's a four-part series on textures. You should definitely go take a look and then come back to this one for more information. The WADs I cover in this video aren't necessarily used creatively. They're more utility WADs, but you can certainly use them creatively as well. All the files I mentioned are linked down below in the comments, and if you have any questions, look me up on the Quake Mapping Discord. There's a lot of people there that can help you with Quake questions. We'd love to have you. Even if you're not a mapper, come by. So without further ado, let's start with Prototype WAD. Prototype WAD was created by Krathor, aka Creator. The most recent version at the time of this video is 1.2. This one is made up of most of the colors in the Quake palette with 16 by 16, 32 by 32, 64, and 128 variants as well. The WAD also has solid versions of all the Fullbright colors in the Quake palette, which can be handy for lights and other highlights in a map. The idea behind Prototype WAD is to allow mappers to iterate on their maps without worrying about specific textures. Once your map is to a certain point, you can start experimenting with other texture combinations. But there are mappers who have used Prototype in creative ways to attain a specific, colorful, even whimsical aesthetic. Next up is the UB Light WAD. Ubiquitous is an accomplished Quake mapper, and this is probably the most useful WAD covered in this video. This is a collection of light textures that have been modified to be switchable. What Ubiquitous has done is to add Fullbright and non-Fullbright versions of each texture. This way, you can create a funk wall with one version of the texture and toggle it along with a light entity to switch lights off and on. Even if you don't need to toggle lights, it's still great to have a Fullbright version of these textures, so you don't need to light the face of a non-Fullbright version. That might sound confusing to new mappers, but trust me, this is a big time saver. Next, we have Dev QText WAD. What's great about this one is that it clearly shows you the Quake units on each texture. This is something that Source Engine mappers will appreciate, as it's the closest thing to the orange and gray box textures that are used to prototype in Valve maps. The WAD was originally from a mapper named MechTech, but I fixed a small error and repackaged this new version. Scale is one of the hardest things to get right for new mappers, and this WAD makes it easy to visualize. I use Dev QText for Quake C development. For example, to measure how far a sound will travel in the game, or to get a feel of how fast a projectile travels in Quake units. The next WAD is a simple collection of skip textures I made back in 2018. Now, Prototype WAD does have these already, but if you just need skips, it's quite handy to load up this small WAD instead of having to use the entire Prototype WAD. I've covered skips in some of my other videos, but one example of using skip is on teleporters. If you texture a teleporter on all sides with the teleport texture, and a person playing your map has their alpha setting lower than 1, you can get this double vision effect. Using skip on all the sides except one will eliminate this problem. The last WAD on this list is really a collection of a lot of WADs. This is id1 WADs per map version 3. One of the earliest videos I made was on the id source maps, and there are a few different ways to load up the textures for those, but I wanted a way to quickly see what textures were used in each map individually. I also like working with a small set of textures when I begin a map. I usually pick a texture theme beforehand, and many times it's based on a specific original map from id. So what I did was create a WAD for each map in the original game. When I start out, I limit myself to those textures, and then I'll add more to the map as needed. If you're completely new to mapping, I highly suggest you download this pack and limit your texture selections to a specific set. It's a great way to keep from mixing and matching textures that don't belong next to each other. That's it for this episode. Thanks for hanging in there. We'll see you in the next video.